Oneness, having an experience of oneness and separation. Through oneness we are. This is the main point, that we are always oneness, even when we appear not to be, even when we appear to be in separation, we are always oneness. We are oneness having an experience of itself, so that means oneness having an experience of oneness. But we are also oneness having an experience of separation, because oneness cannot experience itself if it remains one. It has to split apart in order for experience to happen, in order for movement to be born out of that one pure stillness. And it's all happening now, this dance of oneness and manyness. It's all in this moment, and you can attune to whatever aspect you choose to be. Whether you concentrate on oneness or concentrate on separation, that becomes your reality. That is your reality to your experience, but ultimately the reality is always one. And that is where all separation comes from. Separation doesn't exist by itself. It exists as the product of the creative power of the universe, which was born through that initial desire to be, that explosion into relative, separative being, the creative power of the universe that gave birth through the Big Bang into experience. This creative power, it's not like we left it behind at the source. That creative power, that source, runs through everything and is present in everything for us to connect to. Present in all aspects of life for us to connect to through the very life that we are. So it's life connecting to life. We are not separate from life, we are life. So this video is a combination of ideas that carry the same sort of theme, as a thread of this theme running through. We're all on our own journey, the journey of one, separately. And like I said, separation and unity both can appear to be true. And in many ways both are true. Separation and unity both exist so long as we're in the world. Separation and unity. So it's like the mind cannot compute, cannot accept two at once. So the mind, because our minds operate in a dualistic way, it's very difficult for our minds to accept that we can be one and we can be a part of one or apart from one. It's very difficult for a mind that exists in this sort of binary opposition. It's very difficult for our minds to accept that we can be simultaneously connected and disconnected. And so if our minds are to remain divinely human, rather than just sort of lost to this binary mechanism, if our minds are to remain divinely human, we need to be able to step up to hold apparent contradictions at once, because otherwise we just end up living in the binary mind, which will eventually, computers operate on binary code. Computers operate on, that's how computers are run, it's this or that. So our minds are almost losing their divinity, their ability to hold oneness and separation together. And they're becoming our minds are just becoming lost to oneness and entirely about this either or, separation, duality, dichotomy, which can easily be encoded into technological computer codes. And this is what really worries me, the fact that humanity is giving itself over, divine humanity is giving itself over, is giving its consciousness over to a far more limited form, which is technology. And yes, technology has the ability to make our lives easier in many ways, but time-saving devices create more time that we apparently have to use productively, and so we end up just doing more and more and more and more, and we get more and more stress, more stress, can't relax, and then again we obscure the connection to that oneness, because it's only when we relax and we can unfold and we can really be present, then we can glimpse this oneness, we can see this oneness, this unity, this connection. Otherwise we're disconnected, and in disconnected we can be taken out of our true essence, because disconnected we are out of our true essence. Our true essence is connection, of oneness, of being. Disconnected we are taken out of our true essence. We take ourselves out of our true essence and are taken out of our true essence, and we can be lost to our true essence. So if, for example, humanity were to go down the technological route, soul, spirit cannot be encoded into technology. So if we give ourselves over to technology, then it's like we're disconnecting ourselves from our way back. We're disconnecting ourselves from our source. And as the source is the destination and the real present moment here now, we're disconnecting ourselves from life that we are by investing our consciousness in technology. So it's a dangerous path society is on, and we need to be clued up to what's happening. But anyway, I didn't intend to talk about technology, but it felt good to do so. So this mind of two that we get stuck in, this or that, we define ourselves in opposition. We know what we are not, and that somehow defines what we are, even if we can't define characteristics of our identity, such as our nationality or something like this. We can understand that we are not the other, and that somehow gives credibility to what we apparently are. So when you look at Englishness, for example, people have a natural sense of being of a land, of an identity. But yet when you really ask people what it is, it's very difficult to explain what Englishness is. It's like a take it for granted thing that we define in relation to other identities, other national identities that exist around us. So it's part of this separative construct, duality mode, that the mind gets lost in. And in this type of mind, we are English and not French, or we are French and not English. And this is a mind of two, the mind of two, a split mind. And remember, mind is our degree of consciousness. Mind has the capability to connect to oneness, to perceive oneness directly, to be the extension of oneness and to be that oneness. This is what yoga is about. Yoga is about returning to the oneness you are, samadhi. It's about returning to this oneness, because you are never not this oneness. It's only our false perceptions, the veils of understanding, or lack of understanding, darkened obscurations that prevent us from seeing our oneness. And this whole journey is about, after putting on the veil to forget oneness, it's about having an experience, reaching the limitations of experience, and then through searching, through deeper understanding, removing the veil, seeing oneness, returning to oneness, being oneness. So separation and unity, the mind cannot compute, cannot accept two at once, because intellectual mind We often prize intellectualism, but intellectualism is a being stuck in the head, being stuck in duality, rather than seeing beyond the dichotomy to the wholeness. A lot of intellectual debate just has no understanding of truth, no understanding of wholeness. So, the mind cannot accept two at once, the mind locked in separation and time-space duality, in experiential mode rather than understanding of the divine source. The mind can't compute, cannot accept two at once, because intellectual mind is either or, this or that, one or the other, duality. You'll never work out wholeness with that. You'll never find wholeness with a mind of separation. So this is why we need to work on ourselves, which means when we work on ourselves, we're working on our own consciousness, we're working on our own state of mind, we're elevating ourselves, attuning our mind to oneness, because mind has the capability to operate with oneness, in oneness, as oneness. It's just often, the modus operandi, the main mode of operation in society is a mind locked and lost in separation. So duality, you'll never work out wholeness with that. It's the wrong tool. If we want to know wholeness, we don't use tools that are for the experiential realm, and the mind of this or that is for the experiential realm, is for duality, is for choosing directions within an environment with options, i.e. separation, because there are no options in oneness. Oneness is only oneness. Separation is where we have this or that. It's where we have binary codes. And separation is beautiful, but we don't want to get lost in it. We don't want to lose the context of our being, of our life, and of our experience in separation. So separation and unity both exist so long as we're in the world, but ultimately oneness is the core. Oneness is the core from which this duality, this dance of non-duality and duality, of oneness and separation happens. So this dance is contained within oneness. Dance is held in this one present moment that we are. So you'll never find wholeness with a mind of separation, a mind that sees in terms of the separation and is locked in separation. See the totality by seeing with totality. Remember, the consciousness you are is the world you see. So we're learning to see the totality. By seeing the totality, integrating all aspects into a whole sense of self, into the whole sense of self. Whole sense of self, whole. To do this, we work through the struggles. We work through the separation. So my notes are all over the place. In our separate life experience, okay. Alright, So to see the whole self, the one whole self, we need to work through the separation that appears to exist to us, because it is through the separation that we learn of our oneness. This is the whole journey. So the struggles that present themselves to you are those aspects of the separation that you are still needing to learn from to return to oneness. In our separate life experience, your life experience is your experience of life, it's our own stuff that shapes our experience. So all possibility here, all possibility exists, and yet we go the way we go. So why is it some people go some way, other people go another way? Why is it some people are locked in some patterns, others are locked in different patterns? and we can see each other's patterns, but we keep repeating our own, and it's in each moment there is all possibility, and yet like a momentum in place, and it's our own mind constructs, accumulated mind constructs that we're operating on, and that carry us forward on that trajectory that we're going. All possibility exists, and yet we go the way we go. And this is karma's perfect expression. When you see it, it is really clear. We get so caught up in ourselves, in our own stuff. Nobody notices our stuff as much as we do. Other people think we're alright, while we're beating ourselves up for being this way or that. People live by their own limitations or lack thereof, in which case there's a greater reach to freedom. So we're burning away our limitations through our experiential lives. What we experience is what allows us to grow in our understanding of self, which is what this whole game is about, knowing yourself. And it can be a struggle to know ourselves, and this is the crux of it, because what do you do when you're presented with struggle? In the world, do you try and avoid struggle? Do you try and make life cushy for yourself? Try and avoid pain? Or do you face it? Do you face what's difficult and work through it? Are you consciously growing, or are you unconsciously hiding yourself away because it's too much to face the life you are? So we self-medicate pain because the struggle is too much. So you see this all the time with alcohol, with coffee and chocolate. We're sort of, alcohol is numbing ourselves to inner, naggings or stresses. Is numbing ourselves because it's too much to embrace possibility to change and the effort it takes to change. It's an easy option to drink problems away. We self-medicate pain because the struggle is too much. Even coffee and chocolate, it's like coffee and chocolate. When things get too much, we reach for these certain types of food to kind of mask the symptoms. We sort of hide behind these types of food rather than facing difficult emotions, difficult feelings, difficult arisings in our awareness. We self-medicate against pain because the struggle is too much, but in that is the growth. So in facing there is growth. In running away there is no growth. It's like that whole thing about facing your fears. If you face your fears, they dissolve. If you don't face them, they grow. It's like if you shine light in darkness, that darkness is illuminated. But if you don't shine light there, that darkness, it gets murkier and murkier and darker, and because our attention is the light. Our attention is the light. And as we face up to things, we're shining the light of our consciousness, of oneness, into all areas. So we're shining the light into all areas of separation in order to dissolve the separation, because separation exists, the duality of light and shadow. If we dissolve that separation with the light of our consciousness, then we are becoming this oneness of the light that we are, this pure light of consciousness that is who we are. So in the struggle, although it can be too much, in the struggle is where there is growth. But we don't want to struggle, we want it easy. Facing ourselves is how we grow though. Facing ourselves is how we grow up and out of our limitations. You come up against yourself, because all the struggles is you coming up against yourself in one way or another. your value system being questioned, or your mode of operation coming up against resistance because that mode needs to change perhaps. Facing ourselves is how we grow up and out of our limitations. You come up against yourself until you can accept yourself as you are. And as you are, truly you are. So it's not about sort of accepting, I'm limited, I'm never going to change. It's about accepting, it's about accepting who you are. Yes, so we only come up against ourselves if we are resisting something. And you come up against yourself until you can accept yourself as you are. Because coming up against ourselves is a lack of acceptance of the truth of who we are, which is the oneness of love. So until we accept the oneness of love, we're going to be knocking about in the pleasure-pain dichotomy. When we accept the oneness of love, that dichotomy can dissolve, because we realise pleasure, pain, although they may feel very different, they are both the experience of the same love. So it's seeing beyond the duality to the oneness. You come up against yourself until you can accept yourself as you are. So as you are in your true identity of one, not as you are in your limitation. We're working through limitation. And as you are, truly you are. So as you are in oneness and the image of oneness and your chosen experience of oneness, empowered by, in and for oneness, you are. We self-medicate ourselves against growth. We can't handle it when it is our opportunity, our way out of confusion. And this work is not indulgent. Your life depends on it. Choose growth. Face life. Face yourself. Put in the effort, you get the reward. The effort, the reward. It's like always we're wanting something without putting effort in. And there is nothing of value that we get without putting effort in. Effort to know ourselves, we connect with who we are, and then it becomes an effortless state. There is effort and effortlessness, and it just is, it's just isness. But until we reach that point, it's like, until we reach sort of like that consistency of just being in pure presence, there is this flow of effort and reward of putting work in to get results. It's like you have a sense of what you need to do in life. If you don't do it, you feel lacking. If you have a sense of what you need to do in life, you do that, then you get the reward, because it's life following life. It's life following the impulse of life. And life likes that, life following the impulse of life. We see in these terms of effort and reward. I'm talking in these terms of effort and reward. But ultimately it's just life following its way. And like I said before about we all live by our own stuff, it's karma's perfect expression. All these accumulated choices of accumulated lifetimes which have led to who we appear to be in this moment. And who we appear to be in this moment is setting a direction for the next moment. The apparently next moment, there's only one moment always, but in time and space there's a succession of moments apparently. Continuum. So we live by our own limitations or lack thereof, in which case there is a greater reach to freedom, a greater sense of freedom if we've sort of dropped some of our limitations and seen more clearly the essence of who we are. So we're working through, we're stepping up to wholeness, becoming complete. And this happens in recognizing the wholeness we already are. And again, recognizing the wholeness we already are, it's not a blind choice, it's not a belief and then an acceptance that we are one. It's a true knowing that we are one, and it can't be translated, it can't be communicated. I mean, the symbols, the words of it can be communicated, but the direct experience of it is for you, for me, for each one of us to come to for ourselves, and that is the journey. And that is why it has to be like that. No one else can do it for you, because no one else is the life you are. This is life finding its way, and all there is life. Establish yourself in life, the totality of life. Know you are all of it, all the aspects and all the whole. Then you can drop labels of this or that, duality, separation, time and space. Not that I'm knocking those things, because that's what enables us to have this experience. That is what's happening. But we're not wanting to get lost in these labels, in this experience. We're wanting to use these labels, this experience, with integrity, which means honouring the whole that we are, which is not outside of ourselves, the deeper aspects of life we are. So in honouring that, we become happier, wholer, more complete, more able to function in separation, less bogged down by it. You know, it's like a line to life, and you win, because life is the game. Anything else is loss, you know. Life is the game, life is the happening, life is the being, life is the seeing, life is life, life is all of it. So if you establish yourself in life, if you see you are all of it, the whole, then you can drop labels of this or that, labelling yourself and others and being limited and limiting to the categories you employ, and just be as you are. So it's like this is where the effortlessness kicks in. You do your work, but there is a quality of effortlessness. It is just happening. Dropping labels, dropping this investment in duality. We don't end up boxing people and situations up. We don't end up making conclusions and false summaries. We can just let things unfold as they are, without judging, without limiting to something less, because everything is fluid. Any situation, there are an infinite number of stories, of influences playing into it, and whatever we decide has happened, it's based on our limited understanding. So we have to create space around our reactions. We have to create space around our assumptions, our prejudices. We have to see that we are not seeing so long as we are putting things in boxes. We are reducing what is there to an image that is the product of all our previous learning experiences, because we judge by what we've been through before. So letting go of labels of this or that, and just being as you are, just be as you are. So simple, and yet such a difficult practice, to be as you are. Dancing in wholeness, dancing in totality. Let go of labels and just be as you are. Dancing in wholeness, dancing in totality. So it's less about box conclusions and more about weaving through consciousness, weaving through. This is the movement of life. This is tree branches growing. This is sea creatures swimming. Life does not operate in boxes. Death operates in boxes, coffins, you know. It's like, and of course that's not even death. But the way we package it is death-like. Death is a lack of life, or the obscuration of life. life does not operate in labels and boxes. Life operates as it is. It just does what it does. And this is for us to realise, to see, and realise that we are life, and we just need to be as we need to be. Like, we have so many labels around, and societal standards, societal norms around how we should be, how it is okay to be, and in that we get lost in categories of what does this t-shirt represent? What does this t-shirt mean? Is this t-shirt too much, too sexy? Is this t-shirt too scruffy? Is this t-shirt too bright? Is this t-shirt too dull? Is this t-shirt too indicative of a sexual orientation? Is this, can we not just let a t-shirt be a t-shirt? Do we have to have so many labels around it? Can we not just let life be life? Do we have to put so many labels around it? So this is what it's all about. It's about returning to a state of being beyond representation, direct state of being, dancing in wholeness, dancing in totality. With labels of yourself or anyone else, we're just leading ourselves into separation. Labels are of separation, return to separation. It's that mode of consciousness, horizontal time and space reality. So with labels, we lead ourselves to separation. We come from separation. We lead ourselves to separation if we're operating in labels. And the mind constructs that go with it. Because mind constructs are always of time and space. If things are born of separation, they this thing about in their own image. If our modes of thinking are separative, then what they create in our experiential reality is going to be separative. And then that reinforces that mode of being, which is separative. So we have to sort of step up out of this to realise that we came from oneness. We didn't come from separation. Ultimately we came from oneness. And for life to return to itself, which is the whole journey, we can't get lost in separation. We can't go out too far into technology. It cuts us off from our spirit. We have to return to the spirit, which means stepping up and out of the separation. Separation is not bad in itself. It's only when it's disconnected from the whole that it stops serving life, and it is there to serve life. So with labels of yourself or anyone else, there is separation and the mind constructs that go with it. And we limit ourselves like this. Drop labels leads to limitation. It's liberating. Life is for liberating ourselves in it, to it. Becoming the life we are. Becoming the life we are to be. You know this question, to be or not to be? To be, it's not like it's not to think or not to think, it's to be or not to be. To be or not to be. This is the question, you know. It's like, this to me means to be, oneness, life, or not to be, separation, death. To be, truth, or not to be, falsehood. To be, reality, or not to be, dream, illusion. And yes, we can have a dream of reality, and that's what's happening. So, to be or not to be, it's all happening now. Pure being, experience. It's like to be or not to be in essence or not to be in essence. We can make our choice, but that doesn't remove the fact that essence is all there is. So yeah, drop labels to liberation. It's liberating. Life is for liberating ourselves in it, to it, becoming the life we are to be, becoming the life we are. Of mine, of yours, of everyone else's. It's one life. Seeing the universality of the little individual experience, we see that we all go through negativity. We see that we all go to the toilet. We see that we all have the same insecurities, tie ourselves in similar knots and put ourselves in the same sorts of boxes. And we also see, so it's like a shared humanity. It's like we're all naked underneath our clothes, and yet we hide our nakedness away, And we all aspire to love in whatever way we know how. So we all do this. We all aspire to love. We all share the same life. And yet we've got so entrenched in illusory separation, lost to the whole, that we all kind of partitioned ourselves off and away from each other. And life has become obscure to us. The whole picture of life has become obscure to us. And like I said, this obscuration of life of source is what is dangerous and what needs to be rectified by knowledge of self. So we all aspire to love in whatever way we know how, the same one love we are. So what do we do with this life? We see our stuff, we work through it, we face ourselves, we come back to the whole and our experience of it. So it's all beautiful. Oneness, separation, it's all beautiful. Learning to live more joyously, more fully, and that is more centered in life. So in seeing ourselves, we're seeing not just separation, not just the limited body-mind entities of flesh and bones and brain that we are. In seeing life, we are actually seeing wholeness. In seeing life, we are seeing not just separation, although we see that, definitely we see that, and we see that directly, but we are seeing not just separation, we are seeing the essence of life, which that separation was born from. So actually what's happening with consciousness is that we, individually, are seeing the whole. Our consciousness is seeing the whole consciousness. And this is consciousness seeing consciousness. This is witnessing the witness. This is life seeing life. And something is important about this. There's something about closing the circle, about completing the experience through life seeing life. It's like life, in order to have an experience, the essence of life leaves itself. The veil descends, we forget who we are. We go out into experience, we enjoy, we have pleasure, we have pain, all the duality, we find our limitations, we feel like there must be more. The limitations fade, and we start to see beyond separation to wholeness, to oneness. And in seeing that wholeness, that oneness, that life, we have returned life to itself through that cycle. And this is the cycle of life. So this is the line of time-space continuum closing in on itself. This is either end of the duality meeting. This is embracing the contradictions of life to see in wholeness. So it's like, at first there is pure consciousness, there is our consciousness, and we see. Pure consciousness is seeing through us, and we are seeing what we are seeing. And it's like an extension out, seeing of God through individual self, into world, flow of consciousness from spirit out into manifestation. And this is kind of like where the experience happens, consciousness channeling through us into world, into creation. And then what happens is we shift our attention. And we shift our attention from outside back inside. And so instead of consciousness running from creator, source, through creation, co-creating, into manifestation, and attention being there, the attention from creator source, consciousness from creator source through individual self, co-creator, creator, co-creator, turns back to the source. So it's consciousness seeing consciousness. Instead of consciousness extending itself out into manifestation, consciousness is returning its sight, its vision back to itself. Life is seeing life. Experience is understanding its context. Life is seeing life. This is returning love to itself, seeing the witness, seeing the consciousness through which your individual consciousness, seeing the consciousness which otherwise limits itself through your view. Your expanded view allows you to see that consciousness, to see the source of your awareness. That's essentially it. So instead of just using awareness, projecting it outside, we are seeing our awareness. We are seeing the fact that we are aware. Rather than just being aware of what's happening around us, we are being aware of awareness itself. So this is consciousness returning consciousness to itself. This is consciousness being returned to itself. This is awareness being returned to itself. This is love returning to itself, returning love to itself. So establish self as self in truth, through seeing the truth of who you are. So you will look outside for the truth of who you are until you exhaust that option, because you can't find it, and then you start to come in. You start to look at your own inner workings of your consciousness, and this is what I mean by working on ourselves. We're looking at our own inner functions, mechanisms, our own inner patterns, and we're sort of reflecting on this inner consciousness. We're sort of bringing light back to light, consciousness back to consciousness. So until this point you ping about amidst and between the dualities, the dichotomy, the extremes of up and down, or left and right, and all degrees and possibilities between the two, until you find the middle way. So it's this idea of a middle way. It's like the way most closely aligned with love, not associated to love, not sort of a label of love, because an association is like an attachment. It's not an association to love, it's a alignment with love. It's not a boxed version of love, it's an alignment with love. So this is kind of like another way of explaining the closing of the circle. The middle way, it's like we have the dualities, we can ping about in them, or we can see the balance. And in the balance there is like an aligning to a deeper truth. One way is uniting the dualities, seeing the deeper truth. The other way is coming to the middle of the dualities, seeing the deeper truth. It's the same kind of process. It's a different way of describing it. So this way of love is is us becoming aligned with love, where there is true stability, true security, joy of the deepest kind. So all these things are offered in the world, but the world never fully delivers these things on a way, on a level that is so true it's undeniable. Your true security is knowing that you are always held in love. Your true stability is knowing this. Your true joy is knowing that even the pains we go through, as well as the pleasures, even the pains we go through, are in service to our experience. And this is the joy of service to the whole, the joy of service to love. So we all know, even if we're just a little bit awake, that separative interests, without seeing the context of the whole, just lead to a load of infighting. Everyone trying to get a piece of the pie, not knowing that they are it, not knowing that they are that pie. You know, it's like everyone's obscured themselves to the whole, think they're just a part, and they have to have the parts, you know, because they want more parts to make their part bigger. It's like the cake analogy I used before, cake or pie, whatever. Everyone's trying to get a piece of the pie, not knowing they are it, not knowing they are the whole. Pushing and pulling, struggle and strife. We all know unity. Deeply we know it. But the pressures and struggles of life can mean we end up flaring up against each other. So yeah, we have moments where we do get caught in separation. We do forget the essence of our love, because this experiential world, you know, it entrains our attention to it. We have to stay centered within it in presence if we are not to get lost outside of ourselves in separation. Yes, go out in separation, but don't get lost there. So we all know unity, deeply we know it, but the pressures and struggles of life can mean we end up flaring up against each other. So what's the solution? Seeing your wholeness. Yes, push and pull, but don't invest yourself in it, not entirely. You know, be full within it, express your wholeness through it and in it, but do not invest yourself in it in your entirety, because your entirety is not there. Your value is more, because your value is whole, and in wholeness there is no more and there is no less. So your value is more than just your rank in the separative hierarchy. Your value is your essence, which is your wholeness, which is the same wholeness of life as everyone else. And yet, we're not getting lost in anyone else's experience, because we are the totality of life itself. And your body-mind experience is your interface of the consciousness you are, based on your accumulated past experiences and choices, which lead to the life you live now. So this is why it's in our interest to make our highest choices, because they lead to higher modes of being, higher ways of seeing, and greater joy in the manifest world. You are more than your position and positioning within a separative society and a separative mind. You are whole already, and seeing this is establishing yourself, your little self, in the universal mind, in the wholeness of self, the mind of God. So we don't want this to get sort of hijacked, you know. And there's a lot of talk about globalism and localism also, and both could be positive or both could be negative, depending on the consciousness we bring to them. So is it good to be global? Like I talked about just now, I said we all know, if we're even a little bit awake, that separative interests without seeing the context of the whole just lead to a load of infighting. We can see this on a global scale, where it doesn't make sense to conceptualise identity in separative, nationalistic terms or religious terms, because we are all one. Globally, we are all one. The Earth has been seen as one entity from space, just like a body is one entity, the Earth is one entity, the universe is one entity. Oneness exists on all different scales, so it's all oneness. Oneness exists in time and space, it's all oneness. So you may sort of logically assume that I'm advocating a global way of seeing, but it really depends, and this is where we have to be so careful, because we can easily be misled and mislead ourselves into thinking something is close to wholeness when it's not. So global, what do you think? Yes or no? Is it good to be global? Well, it depends how that global is operating. Global, sure, yes, of course. The planet is one life. Global, yes, but not separative in that. So, I mean, you can see, for example, if one country was promoting, or one company, organisation was promoting a global vision, but it wasn't consulting other countries, wasn't consulting other companies, then it can be advocating a global vision, but actually it's not global at all, it's separative still, under the guise of global. Just like you have all this green industry. It's not, a lot of it isn't environmentally friendly, it's just people jumping on a bandwagon, hiding beneath a label, which is a label that shapes people's perceptions, and because people don't look into things deeply, because we're all so busy, you know, lost in our individual day-to-day separative experience, survival mode mentality, seeking comfort and pleasure, i.e. serving separation, because pleasure exists in opposition to pain, and it is a denial of oneness to actually want to be in one aspect of the duality all the time. Because we don't really see beyond the label. The label becomes all there is to us, and that's all we see. Like, we see someone advertising themselves as a green company, we go along with it being a green company. Someone tells you you're separate, you go along with, we all go along with that to a certain extent. That's why we exist in the world. But what I'm saying is, when our consciousness does not penetrate labels, when we do not see the wholeness, and we only see the separation, then we leave ourselves open to being manipulated so badly. So, yeah, if an individual has a global vision, well, are they consulting all the other individuals? And if they're not, it's not global. But yes, if each person within a global society is afforded their own self-sovereign authority, which is what we are self-sovereign life. The only authority is who we are. And who we are is love, and so in that, when we are in that, and don't be misled here either, when we are in that, we exist in love with each other. We don't exist in sort of senseless, separative interests. And yeah, love can be soft and strong, it can be all aspects of the duality, but it's recognising the authority of life, essentially. That's what's important, the authority of life. And when someone or something or some apparent power attempts to claim life and use life for its own interest, then we are losing oneness. So see beyond the labels of oneness. See beyond the show of oneness, and see. Trust your feeling, come back to your feeling, come back to yourself, because this is the only gauge, this is the only way you will truly see truth and falsehood, is knowing yourself. Truth will reveal itself to you if you want to find it. This is your path to follow. If you desire it, you go that way, you find it. So global, yes and no, depends on the intention. So would you go with local instead? Divisive mind, well, if it's not global, maybe local's better. Again, we're locked in this divisive mind. It's all about the level of consciousness, the intention. And so local as well. Local, growing food locally, fantastic, and organising locally. But then if your locality is pitting itself against other localities in some sort of competitive, separative market system, whatever, then that's not beneficial either. So in both instances, it's a case of knowing who you are and aligning to love, to consciousness, so that you can operate on all scales, on global and local, with integrity. So global, yes, but not separative in that, not colonization. You want unity, universal, not images of that. Local, yes, but not partite in that, universal. See the whole, see it contained within each part. See each part elevated to the whole. See yourself, for yourself. So it's not a matter of scale really, it's a matter of knowing truth. See yourself for yourself, and the university and the universality of experience. See yourself for yourself, as yourself. See yourself as self. Return your life to life. And knowing life, you know this one universality of experience.